A very good morning to Madam Shanti and hello everyone. First of all, I introduce myself. I am the leader of Group 24. My name is Joel and let me introduce my group members which is Wailun, Kuberan, Jala and Rushinis. Today we are going to present about the impact of COVID-19 on tourism in Malaysia.
Hello, madam. Today, I'd like to present on the introduction on the topic of how COVID-19 have impacted the tourism industry in Malaysia. The US Center for Disease Control and Implementation, also known as CDC, identified a new virus in a seafood market in Wuhan, China, and it was assumed as an outbreak hub in early January 2020. Later on, the new virus was named as COVID-19, also known as coronavirus. On the other hand, the first COVID-19 case was recorded in Malaysia on January 25 in 2020. Not only that, Malaysia also recorded around 6,000 COVID-19 cases from total of 32 million people, including 102 facilities at the end of April in 2020. Tourism is the world's largest industry, and it is a broad sector that includes a number of businesses including hotels, travel and tourism, hospitality and transportation sectors. Moreover, tourism is defined as a people traveling and staying in location outside of their usual environment for less than 1 year in a row for leisure, business, health and many more other reasons. Malaysia is a well-known and a stunning country for its magnificent tourist destination, which includes beaches, landscapes, islands, hills, hill stations, mountains, and many other famous World Heritage sites. In addition, in 1999, Malaysia created a marketing slogan to promote their tourism growth globally. It was known as Malaysia Truly Asia, and it served as an effective marketing scheme, and it brought about 7.4 million visitors to Malaysia. In addition, as a primary contributor to the increasing economy, tourism became the third largest source of foreign exchange income for Malaysia. In 2019, the tourist arrival contributed to the revenue of 41.69 billion for the tenure of January till June. The tourism industry was at its peaks until 2019, but unexpectedly due to the rapid increase of COVID-19 pandemic, the most countries, including Malaysia, announced lockdown and travelling was also restricted. Moreover, the Malaysian government faced a downfall for almost 3.37 billion in 2020. All the tour packages for 2020 were terminated by the government, which left the hotels, tourism and airline with considerable impact, and the GDP was also affected from 0.8% to 1.2% or approximately 10.3 billion to 17.3 billion. Ministry of Tourism also terminated the campaign of Visiting Malaysia 2020, which left a significant impact on government's target, which was to get a success arrival of almost 30 billion tourisms in 2020. As for the Q&A part, when did the marketing slogan Malaysia Truly Asia was launched? As we know, as I explained just now, the marketing slogan Malaysia Truly Asia was launched in 1999.
Hello, my name is Lee Wei-Lun, and right now I'll be presenting my part. As we all know that COVID-19 is the virus that has been spread around the world for years now, and it really affects most of the industries around the world, and the tourist industry is one of them. One of the effects that COVID-19 had on the tourist industry is that it greatly decreased the amount of tourist attraction that tourists, both local and foreign, can choose to visit to. In order to control the COVID-19 pandemic from spreading, the government had no choice but to close down most of the facilities and tourist attractions temporarily in order for the virus to be controlled. However, it also restrict and greatly decrease the amount of tourist attractions that visitors can choose to visit to. For example, Genting Highland, one of the most famous tourist attractions of Malaysia, has most of the facilities such as the outdoor theme park and the casino shut down due to the controlation of the pandemic. Some of the sentimental tourist attractions in Malaysia, such as the National Art Gallery and also the National Library of Malaysia, are also closed down temporarily due to the controlation of COVID-19. Besides that, the controlation of the pandemic has also affected some other businesses such as restaurants and hotels that are open around the tourist attractions. It is because when the tourist attractions are shut down due to the controlation of pandemic, which means there are no more visitors that will be around the tourist attraction area, which also affects the business of those hotels and restaurants at the same time. Now we will move on to the Q&A session. The question for today is, what are some of the examples of the tourist attraction that are closed down due to the COVID-19 virus? When and till when it will be closed? The answer for that is some of the example for the tourist attractions that are closed down in Malaysia is the National Art Gallery, the National Library of Malaysia, the National Archive Centre of Malaysia, and some memory centers, etc. And these following places will be shut down from 16th of March 2020 till 30th of March 2020, according to our Ministry of Tourism.
Hello, good morning. My name is Joel and I am the leader of Group 24. Today I'm going to present about the impact of tourism transportation. The COVID-19 pandemic has affected several industries in Malaysia. The most affected are the roads and transportation. Countries around the world implemented the movement restriction to control the pandemic. Some of the effects had a significant influence of the economic transportation operators. The Malaysia has announced the Movement Control Order, the MCO, since March 18, 2020. Among the most significant effect has been decrease in the demand for the passengers transportation. Following the closure of the bulk unusual business traffic on the road was cut in half. The most recent pandemic financial effect on travel and airlines. The tourism revenue is 10% of the worldwide employment and contribute to the 10.4% of the worldwide GDP. IATA forecasts that expenses of airline might reach 252 billion with a roughly 44% decline in the loss of passenger revenues. Following the COVID-19 virus pandemic, 45 billion in tourism spending was lost in half of the year. Crackdowns and absolute lockdown policies in several places have made working in the hotel and tourist sector unsafe for the engaged. Additionally, the industry of the restaurant, cafes and bars have been permanently shut down. And now the question is how to rebuild the tourism sector in Malaysia. First of all, we have to promoting the domestic tourism and supporting the return of international tourism. And following that, strengthening the cooperation between the countries. And the third point for rebuilding the tourism in Malaysia is building a resilient and sustainable tourism. And the last point of rebuilding the tourism in Malaysia is restoring travelers' confidence. That's all from me. Thank you.
Good morning, madam. My name is Lim Jia. Now I will responsible for the impact of pandemic of COVID-19 on employment opportunity of tourism industry in Malaysia. The development of tourism is driven by year to increase workforce participation in the tourism industry, and the government put more efforts in the education of tourism industry that considered as one of the industry which bring huge contribute to our country economy for sustain or even increase our country's GDP, which also called as gross domestic production. Based on ratios and percentage contributions of tourism to total employment statistics, it found out that the contribution of tourism in total employments in 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2019 are increased year by year, which means this is the increasement of tourism consumptions that can drive the development of tourism to increase the country income. However, due to the pandemic of COVID-19, tourism industry left helpless, especially for their employment opportunity because of the lockdown that has resulted many tourism industry shut down, and many tourism industry face big challenge because there are many customers cancel their traveling booking, claim refunds, and also withhold payment. It caused many of tourism workers and graduates lost their job opportunities because their employer lost abilities to pay their salaries. Although the availability of stimulus programs and extensions of MCO by government for helping the tourism industry, there are many respondents still not able to sustain their business. That is all of my presentation session. Now we will go through the Q&A sections. Due to the pandemic of COVID-19, it caused a big impact to our tourism employment opportunities. This caused many employers lost their job. Now this is a question. What type of unemployment that caused by this pandemic? There are three solutions provided. The first one is structural unemployment, frictional unemployment, and cyclical unemployment. The answer will be cyclical unemployment. Thank you.
For the final point, pandemic has affected the Malaysian currency value that has led to the devaluation of Malaysian ringgit and the decline in the country's gross domestic product. November 2019 saw the beginning of COVID-19 in Wuhan. By January 2020, Malaysia had 24 cases according to official reports that had been released in December. According to the ringgit path, COVID-19 caused it to increase from its pre-pandemic average of RM4 ringgit 10 cents to 4 ringgit 35 cents per US dollar by April 2020. This represents a depreciation of 6.1%. The ringgit has lost 25% of its value when the trajectory of exchange rate over the last roughly 5 years is examined. Moving on next is the increment in prices. Sizable delivery disruptions have been found on the onset of the disaster because of its strict motion restrictions, which brought about a few upward rate pressures for positive perishable meals gadgets. Prices of sparkling produce, including inexperienced greens, have reportedly surged extra than 200% at the same time as a few staples, inclusive of birds and eggs and also causewire. Already suffering from shutdowns due to COVID-19 pandemic, the loads are feeling the outcomes of rate inflation on their pockets, especially because the financial system remains within the early recovery levels for goods. Finally, Malaysia's financial system has started its restoration method, helped with the aid of using the COVID-19 vaccination progress, consistent with MIDF research. Whilst the predicted restoration these 12 months changed into not on time because of resurgence of COVID-19 instances due to Delta variant, the state of affairs confronted these 12 months has been very plenty distinct from only confronted closing 12 months 2020. The country excessive vaccination fee has allowed the authorities to reopen financial system and restart the restoration method after several extended lockdowns, stated MIDF research. For the Q&A, why did the MIDF anticipate the rising virtuous dynamics within the actual financial system might in the end reflected within the monetary financial system? The answer is consider that those elements will have an effect on buyers' sentiments positively, mainly to higher overall performance of our fairness market and additionally of our nearby peers.
Hi, madam. Now I would like to explain about the conclusion on the topic of impact of COVID-19 on tourism industry in Malaysia. The COVID-19 pandemic has reflected social, psychological, and socio-economic cultural influences on the various tourism stakeholders, and they will suffer from adverse effect if this continues for a longer time. So, the Malaysian government should provide assistance to everyone who had been adversely affected by COVID-19 outbreak. Malaysian government should provide is to earn through business and to survive in the current environment and maintain the enterprises. Government should provide additional relaxation program for at least 2 years. The government can gradually tighten the policies back to normal after these 2 years when they begin to grow gradually and go back to the previous guidelines. Otherwise, if these things continues, it would get worse and these industries won't last for very long. Moreover, researchers need to implement feasibility studies, tourism demand forecasting, and active best practices that will be beneficial and appropriate to explore the COVID-19 consequences on various geographic organizations and stakeholders. Theoretically, they offer minimal space for expanding knowledge of crisis management, amplifying the pandemic capacity to reopen the investigation areas, and enhancing the function and limitation of tourism, science, and industry. At last, tourism scholars also should consider innovative approaches and research opportunities to determine the organizational distance, taking into account the mental health and privacy issues of stakeholders affected by COVID-19. Not only that, Ministry of Tourism and the Ministry of Health also should entitle the SOPs in tourism attraction areas so that the cases will not rise again. For Q&A part, for the conclusion part, what assistance did government do to everyone and the stakeholders during the COVID-19 outbreak? Government provided additional relaxation program for at least 2 years before they can gradually go their business again and continue to the old guidelines. That's all for my part. Thank you.
That's all our presentation, and thank you. See you in the next time. Have a good day.